Greetings and welcome to a quick presentation and skit on AUD. AUD is known as Alcohol Usage Disorder, and many people throughout America suffer through this problem. This suffrage could be caused from stress from work, daily life struggles in the workforce, or even just the family occupation, family problems with bills and whatnot. AUD is diagnosed from the DSM-5 manual by a person who meets 11 of these criteria. Some of these criteria include drinking way too much than one could expect, drinking being the only thing on one's mind, and even when someone tries to stop drinking, they just can't stop doing it. And depending on how many of these 11 symptoms a person goes through, it can be ranged to see how if there are other symptoms mild, moderate, or extreme. In this video, we're going to show a patient known as Jimmy who has been going through this problem but is in a lot of denial. The doctor, Dr. Nashnoosh, will help him understand the problem and give him a behavioral approach to stopping this issue. Get ready to see the best psych video in the world. Let's go.
Oh, please come in. Hi, I'm Dr. Nashnoosh.
Hi, Mr. Nashnoosh. I'm Jimmy.
Please take a seat.
Yeah.
So, right here it has listed that you've been feeling constant levels of stress from work especially, and it's been affecting how you react with your family. Do you mind telling me more about that?
Well, yeah. Work has been recently. It's been extremely stressful on me because my coworkers has just been difficult since they got laid off a couple days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
And it's just been putting new levels of stress on me, and I just feel like all these responsibilities, along with my children, are just affecting the way I can work and how I can manage myself.
How are you releasing all this stress that's being built up?
Well, honestly, I've just had a couple problems with drinking. I feel like I feel a lot better after I pour one.
Well, that's interesting, Jimmy. How long do you usually spend drinking?
It's usually about half an hour, maybe an hour.
And about how much do you drink?
I'd say depending on the night, on the weekdays, weekends, probably around 3 to 5 cans.
And how often, how frequent do you do this?
Usually after work, and if I just don't have any time, I probably skip 1 or 2 days. But it's rare that actually happens, and then on the weekends with the wife.
So you're drinking more nights than others?
Yes, I could say so, yeah.
Interesting, Jimmy. I just have a few more questions. Do you ever find yourself feeling guilty after drinking?
Well, I mean, no, not really. Although there were a few close calls, I think, and a couple instances where I've accidentally scared my children, and then there was this one instance where I accidentally almost hurt my wife. Thankfully, it was just a close call.
Yeah. So, would you say that you're dependent on alcohol to relieve all your stress?
Well, I mean, I've never really thought about it like that, but I can easily see myself stopping this habit.
Okay, that's good. So what I want to do, I want to schedule an appointment next week, but I want to set a goal for you. All right, I want you to consume no alcohol between now and the next session. You think you could do that?
I think I can do this, yeah. I understand.
Alright guys, here we're going to see Jimmy, who is Dr. Nashnoosh's patient for about 2 weeks now. In this scene, Jimmy is going to be talking to Dr. Nashnoosh, and they're going to figure out ways and talk about how they can stop this disorder. Here we go, guys.
Oh, Jimmy, come in.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
You're good.
So, how's it been? How's this last week been? How have you been doing with task I assigned you?
Well, I mean, I've been doing pretty bad, I'd say. In the past week, I've tried to do other things to keep me busy and to keep me away from drinking, but it's just ended up with me getting more stressed and trying to find an outlet, and I've just looked at drinking again.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, this past week, one of my high school best friends came into town, and he invited me to go to a bar with him. So I just tagged along.
Wow. Jimmy, I'm afraid to say I think you might have alcohol use disorder, but don't worry, this is one of the more common disorders. Roughly 16 million people in the US have this, and roughly 12.7% of adults have it. Um, and of this percentage, nearly 10 million of them are men, like yourself. Some causes which could apply to you could be peer pressure, such as your friend that came in town, um, possible deaths in the family or close friends, possible divorces or marriage issues, and possible stressors such as having the stress of supporting your family. So I have another task for you, except this time I'm gonna make it a bit more achievable. For the next 2 weeks, I want you to try and drink no more than 3 times a week. Do you think you could do that?
Yeah, I think I can do this.
Think you could do that? All right, no more than 3 times a week, and even though it might be extremely painful at times, just know it's all worth it. Just trust the process.
I understand.
All right,
Keep
see ya.
going. I'll keep going. See ya.
Alright guys, so we just saw Dr. Nash News diagnose Jimmy with AUD. So Dr. Nash News used the DSM-5 to 11 criteria to diagnose Jimmy with AUD. And these criteria go as follows, and we can see, and I'll explain how Jimmy fits in every single one of these, right? Some more than others. First, we have he had times when he ended up drinking more or longer than he intended. Several times throughout the therapy, Jimmy told Dr. Nash News that maybe he'll be drinking for a quick sip, of 5 minutes, maybe after work to release some stress, but it ended up going for the whole night, and he ended up getting drunk. Secondly, it says more than once wanted to cut down or stop drinking, but they couldn't. So after we see that Jimmy tried telling that Dr. Nash that once it started affecting his family, everything, he tried to cut back, but every time after work, he's so stressed out, coming home, seeing bills and everything, and he just couldn't help it. He couldn't stop himself from wanting to go to the cabinet and pull out a wine glass and whatnot. Third, it says spend a long time drinking. Well, pretty much self-explanatory. We've talked about it multiple times, but Jimmy goes 30 minutes to an hour every single night when he comes back from work, which is unreasonable and another symptom that can be shown to see that he has AUD. Fourth, and newly added to the DSM-5 is wanting to drink so bad that he couldn't think of anything else. Jimmy, when he gets home, he's stressed out. Of course, he wants to go to sleep, but the only thing on his mind is the only way I can get through this is by getting a drink, by getting a glass, right? That's the only thing going through Jimmy's mind. Number five, found that drinking or being safe from drinking often interfere with the family. We talked about this already, in which drinking caused him so close, not only abusing his wife, but being disrespectful and yelling and causing a hostile and not a safe environment for his children. Number six, he continued to drink even though it was harming everyone around him. Pretty much similar to number five, but this time it includes more friends aspect, right? We can see that Jimmy isn't from Dr. Nash. Hold Dr. Nash that he isn't really hanging out with his friends now. Aside from being busy from work, he has a family and he has to keep everything to himself. He can't really have anyone to lean back on. Number seven, has the person given up on any activities, right? Jimmy, because he's always focused on drinking, he doesn't have time to go out and do activities like he wants to do, like play basketball or boxing or hang out with friends, because the only thing on his mind, like we mentioned, is drinking. Number eight, has him drinking caused him to not to do other situations where things could go out of hand, right? So Jimmy being drunk, drinking out, having blackouts causes for a hostile environment for his family, and not only that, but because he's not in the best state of mind, he can always be doing things such as driving while being under influence, and those things can cause accidents and cause everyone around him to be unsafe, not just his family, but his friends and even the community that he lives in. Number nine, having drinking causing depression and other symptoms, right? As we saw, Jimmy had a very dark negative tone when he was talking to Dr. Nash, right? We didn't see him smile that often. We saw his personality is very gloomy. Those are all side effects of having this issue, right? When he knows that he's in the fault, but he can't really, he's there, but not all the way. He's still in denial, and because of that, he's like moody and down. Number 10, that these drinks that Jimmy is drinking often has this disorder. He's trying to build a tolerance, right? because of tolerance, we see later on that two, maybe one or two sips of cans of beer or whatever it might be won't get him to the state that he wants to be. This tolerance will cause Jimmy to drink more and more and more, which is more of a symptom that he's facing because he can't stop it. He just can't stop it because he knows his feeling. And last one is number 11, right? When Jimmy, if the patient tries to stop doing this, other symptoms occur like shakiness or nausea. So we see that Jimmy, when he did try to stop this, those symptoms did occur, and because of that, he had to go back to the state. He couldn't go that long without going off alcohol. But yet he's still in denial. He does not realize this. And when Dr. Nashus is able to explain it to him, he's finally able to realize that, wow, me not being able to get this sip has caused for me to get this disorder, and I have to now realize this and lean back and get close to my family, so we can all be on the same page and work with one another. These 11 criteria that DSM states are all symptoms of what Dr. Nisha had noticed and has told Jimmy to follow. So later on we'll see how this affects the present day and how Jimmy implements these new learned strategies and how he going back to his family and trying to recreate a new scenery, recreate a new family that can be accepting and stop this problem. So not only do we have the DSM-5 that help Dr. Nashnush really like specify on what type of disorder that he had, but we have a case study. So this case study is from the Josiah Macy Foundation in New York City. And this patient is an old man who is having problems, going back to his apartment. You see his hands shaking, and the landlord lady said, "Is there a problem, sir?" Right? And you see his speech is very slurred. His eyes are very red, and you can easily tell that he's either drunk or like something is wrong, right? So the next day he gets in. That night he gets in back in safely. And the next morning the woman talks to him and goes, asking him questions, and goes like, "Are you okay? What happened last night?" And then he goes, "I had one drink only," which is completely unreasonable. Like, by the way he was acting, the landlady knew that she had more than one drink, but that was the problem. So people who have AUD or other substance disorders aren't able to admit their problems. It's not easy for them. That's very completely understandable. So after further investigation and talking, we saw that he actually had more than one drink. He had 6-7 drinks, and that's the problem. He knows what he's doing, but he has to minimize it so then he can't seem to be the bad guy in the fault. And that's one of the very case studies that specific case study is very pliable to what Willie was facing. Willie couldn't really admit because he was in denial, and that's one state. They're always in denial. People who use substance disorder usage are in denial, and the therapist, after building up that therapeutic alliance, can help them break down that denial and really go attack the problem at hand.
Oh, Jimmy, come in, have a seat.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
It's been good.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm excited to hear from you today. How have you been?
I've been doing good. I've been able to focus on activities other than drinking. I've been able to work on my basketball and my sports in general with friends and such.
That's good. So we've made some progress. Have you talked to anyone about your feelings?
Yeah, of course. I've been talking to my wife and my family in general, and I've just felt great. And now that I know that my wife, I can lean on her for emotional support.
Yeah. It's family is really good. Emotional support can really help you, especially in these tough times.
Yeah, and especially because of how I've been in denial. I've actually been able to open up and see through this.
That's exactly what we wanted to happen. So, how's your withdrawal been? How have you been doing with your drinking?
It's actually been going down quite a bit. I'm probably drinking 2 or 3 cans a week, which is significantly down.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. And I'm sure your family's proud of you too.
Alright guys, over there Dr. Nashnush is trying to implement the patient Jimmy to do a new way in order for him to release dopamine into his system. And this way, he'll be able to do this action rather than having to rely on alcohol usage. Alright guys, we just discussed the first case study and how it relates to Jimmy's symptoms. Here we have the second case study from the NIH discussing a family known as the Olivers. The Oliver has a father, a mother, and a daughter. And the father, he works in a factory, and daily after work he comes back home very stressed out and takes a sip of alcohol. And that alcohol started becoming a tolerance, and he started drinking more and more and more until it started affecting the family, which is one of the very main focuses of the DSM-5. One of the huge categories when it affects your family and friends. Mr. Oliver is starting to affect his wife and his daughter. He's starting to nag. He's starting to be disrespectful and saying, telling his wife, all you do is nag, 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 and that disrespect is, and it's hard with the whole entire family. It's causing a hostile environment. Similarly, he's drinking more than he intends to do, which is another problem of the DSM-5. He is losing track of time and is drinking and drinking and drinking more than he intended, and is causing more effects around his family. These are some of the few examples that Jimmy also had when he was talking to Dr. Nash News. These symptoms correlate into one, and we see that these symptoms are common and help ensure that DSM-5 is doing a credible job discussing that alcohol use disorder is common in both these patients. The behavioral approach is used in both aspects, in which it helps bring in a new stimulus and to replace the alcohol, and in order that can release new neurotransmitters of dopamine and help facilitate this problem and create a new, better environment.
What I'm gonna recommend for you is a group therapy or a rehabilitation group that's gonna meet up every Thursday. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm gonna write your name down. And every Thursday they're gonna meet. They're gonna discuss their problems, and there's people just like you going through the same stuff, just talking.
Okay, thanks, Doc.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. My door is always open, and I expect to hear back from you within the next 2 weeks.
All right.
All
Thank you
right.
very
Take
much.
care.
You too.